Hi everyone! Over the past year I've seen tons of great questions about ace codes in Pokémon Emerald, and I've noticed that the most of the problems people run into are actually the same few mistakes most of the time. So today I'm gonna walk you through how to fix the most common ace code issues and introduce my brand new interactive ace troubleshooter, a simple tool that helps you find the right solution by answering a few questions. Alright, so let's say you have now made your first ace code and you're trying to execute it and it just crashes or doesn't seem to work. Or what is it? There are a lot of other scenarios, like it can, the screen can go black and you hear the music still playing. Or, you know, the man says something completely different than he normally says. There are many scenarios here. And all of these have solutions or, answers. So here is my ace troubleshooting form that you can fill out to hopefully get answers to your ace problems. Now, this is a anonymous form. However, if you decide to submit your answers at the end, I will be able to see in each individual answer, and I can go in, and that can be really useful for me to find out what people are struggling with. I want this to be a tool especially for new ace users out there that struggle with their first codes, or just any code, but mostly for the beginners. So I'll show you quickly how this works, because if we can as a community make this better, then it will save time for everyone. So let's say I just did a code and it doesn't seem to work. So you'd select, I need help with a code issue. Okay? So the answers the questions you get depend on the answers you give, and this is what makes it so nice. So have you done ace codes before on your current save file, and did it work? No, this is my first time. I've never done it before. Okay, and now it asks you the device you're playing on, because some devices may not work, so it's trying to find out what's the best solution going forward. Let's say I'm playing on a PC emulator, or no, you know what? Let's say I'm playing on a console with native GBA, so like it's the Nintendo console basically with Emerald cartridge put in. Okay, next. Alright, so then it basically figures out, okay, your console is good. Now, the next thing you gotta check is this. So I made this list. It's very nice for going through and checking all these things, because these are some of the common problems that could be causing the code not to work. But the most common issue is that you just typed something wrong. So the first one, I've typed the code from box 1, double checked that by choosing a Pokemon to deposit, like if you deposit a Pokemon, the first option will always be 1 unless it's full. Because if you have, this usually is for if you have done a code before and you didn't reset your box names, or you just started typing the next code over the previous one, many times you may forget which box is number 1, and this can be an issue then. So just make sure of that. So I'm now going to show you how it looks like when you deposit a Pokemon for the first thing to check. Okay, so you just take a Pokemon, hit store, and this, what you see right now, will be box 1. If the code that you're trying to input has another code than the one you see on screen when you hit deposit, it means that, you started typing the code from the wrong box. Then you also want to make sure that boxes 11 to 14 are empty, and this applies to most codes, at least in the early Sleipnir codes, if you're watching some of those videos. Because if there's something in there, the code probably won't work. So check that. There's also something called ghost data that I talked about in the setup video. So that may be in there somehow, but you can check by dropping an entire box of Pokemon on top with the multi-select option. You can drop Pokemon over each of those boxes to make sure that they're actually empty. I'm now going to show you how you can drop Pokemon on top of a box to clear ghost data. So you want to click on select to make your hand yellow. You're now in the multi-select option. You're going to hold down the A button and scroll to the right or left, wherever, or down, and just grab the entire box. Let go of the A button to grab it, And now you're gonna go over to box 11, 12, 13, and 14 and drop all of them in there. So this is 11. Okay, and then you have to pick them up again. This is 12. 13. And 14. Once you've done that, you just put them back where they were, and the ghost data that potentially was there should now be gone. So the next step is to check that all uppercase and lowercase letters are written correctly, because there are a lot of them that look like something else, especially the L's, the O's. The O's can look like a big, or like an uppercase O, it can be a lowercase o, or a 0. The L can be a lowercase l, and it may look like a 1. And in the game, they won't look different in the box names. And this is why it's so easy to get those wrong. And you may look at it and say, oh, no, I've written it perfectly correct, but it may not be true. And that's especially for these letters. So if you have some boxes that have these letters, also Q, G, and 9 may look alike. Also watch out for the spaces. If there's space in the beginning of a code, you need to put those in before the rest of the code. And if there's space between somewhere, and make sure you don't you see the difference between space and dash, because the dash has, you know, it's a little bit elevated from the bottom of the character screen. So yeah, these are the things to watch out for. And once you've done all of that, check that, you can check this. Then you want to make sure that you actually are using the right code for your language, because there are different ones. Like if you're not using the English copy of Emerald, then maybe you're writing the code for English and it doesn't work because of that. So then you want to make sure you're using the correct characters for your device. So right here, this is the code for the Mirage Island. I have a video on how to get to Mirage Island and spawn a Pokemon there. This is one of the codes that a lot of people have been getting wrong because they didn't put in the right letter for their device. So as you can see here, it says box 1, and there's a little star here. If there's a star in one of the codes on the paste bins, you want to look to the right, because it says that it depends if it's on emulator or a console. Now, you might be confused with old emulators, like, okay, what is an old emulator? So basically, every emulator that isn't MGBA is considered an old emulator. And if you have an older version of MGBA than 0.9, then it's also considered an old emulator. Now, if you have just your GBA, your DS on a console, you are going to use the code or the character for the console, right? This doesn't apply to if you're using like a handheld, like the Analog Pocket and those things. They run emulators on your device, so then you have to use the code for emulator, all right? Some codes also require you to execute the code in the correct place. A lot of my earlier videos with the Sleipnir codes for getting the islands to unlock, or the mystery gifts to unlock these islands for the legendary events, they require you to hatch or execute the code inside Mauville Pokemon Center, for instance. So make sure that the code doesn't, or make sure that you are in the right place if the code specifies to be somewhere when you do it. Alright, and the last one is to make sure that you use the correct species to execute your code. So for instance, some codes will say it requires a stable ace to work, or it will say requires a bootstrap of some sort. So I'm now on eShark's code generator, and if your code says to use a certain bootstrap or something, then you can read about those here and how to make them. The most common is probably the thumb to arm bootstrap. This is probably something you've heard if you made a stable ace, especially the 0x40E9 stable ace, stable thumb species. But if you're using the stable ace that I recommend you make, which is the what is it again? The 410E, 0x410E, then you don't need this. So that's the good thing about it. Make sure to double check your codes before you think that it's correct, because I tell you that in the beginning it's very difficult to type it correctly without doing any mistakes. If you're wondering about the spaces at the end of some codes don't specify, like, they don't have 8 characters, and then you're wondering, like, okay, should I be hitting start, or what should I press? So if, let's say the code is, just making up a code here, maybe there's a space, and yeah, like a number like this, and that's it, right? And you wonder, okay, what do I press? Do I press space? Does it matter which spaces you press? No, you just press any of these like white spaces, right? And in the beginning I thought you actually had to press all of them, so that you would fill the entire box, but it seems like you don't actually need to do that. But if you want to be sure, you can just fill out the spaces. But most of the time it's going to be okay if you just hit enter or start on your console and press A to confirm. So if you did all this correctly and you checked everything and did any of these fix your issue, if it didn't, you can go to the next page. So usually when you execute these codes, especially the Sleipnir codes, you will have this animation. Maybe it shows you that you've completed your Pokédex or something like that. Or you black out and end up in front of your last visited Pokemon Center. So we must now check for other reasons than the boxes themselves. Now it's going to ask you if you're using what you're using to execute the codes. Are you using a .seg or stablase, a metastable? Let's say we're in the beginning, we're just using the .seg here. And then you get to explain a little bit what happened. These are some of the most common ones. Freezing, crashing, resetting. That's one of the options. And if it hatches and you see the animation, like the exit animation, but the code doesn't seem to be working, that's one of the things. So you can go into all of these and it will give you a good answer for all of these scenarios. And if your scenario is not on this list, feel free to go to the end and just say that I should probably add an option that none of the above, and then let you write in what it is. But yes, so basically if none of these work, then it's very likely that you have typed or EV trained your dots wrong. And that is the hard part, because you probably then misunderstood how to create your dots. And I have here, you can click need help creating the .seg, and it will tell you how to do that. The most common problem that I see is that people think that, and I understand why, because I didn't explain it very well, but people think that EVs are the same as stat points. So that is a very big problem, because it's completely different. So basically the way it works is when you defeat a Pokemon in the wild, it gains XP, but also an EV point. And which EV it is, whether it's HP, attack, and defense, or whatever, depends on the Pokemon. But for this setup, Wishmers always give HP, 1 HP EV. And the Pochiana always gives 1 attack EV for each one you defeat. Now, if you have Pokérus, it will double this, and it will make it almost impossible to get exactly 17 HP EVs and 6 attack EVs. So you want to be careful with that. Make sure that when you're EV training it, it doesn't have EV or Pokérus, and make sure that none of your Pokemon in the party has Pokérus. So to show you an example, this is how the Pokérus looks like. The status down in the left, bottom left corner, you see the PKRS. And if any of your Pokemon has this, while you're EV training, it's going to likely spread to your dots that you're EV training, and then you're all of a sudden going to double the EV points, and it's going to be impossible for you to get it correctly with Pokérus. So make sure that doesn't happen. But when you create the egg, it's going to have Pokérus, so don't worry if you see that later. It's completely normal. So you can see here's the dots that this is how it should look like. It shouldn't have any Pokerus, right? If it has had Pokerus, you can see the difference between these two. This is actually just a clone and one that had Pokerus. You see this little dot next to the Pokeball? That means it is cured from Pokerus. So basically, if you get Pokerus, it's going to go away within a few days. It's kind of RNG, so it's not entirely possible to say exactly when it goes away, but it has a chance to disappear each day, I believe. And yeah, once it does, and you have this dot, then you're no longer going to get double EVs from your from defeating Pokemon. And then you can, so if in worst case scenario your dots that you realize that it had Pokerus, you would have to give it Kelpsie berries and Pomeg berries until it says that it has no effect. That means that those EVs are now 0. And then you would just have to wait for this, the dots to have, for the Pokerus to go away before you can continue. However, there is one more thing. If you messed up and you just, yeah, there's no way back, or maybe you forgot to clone it, or you EV trained the dots wrong, but you didn't make a clone, or something like that. There is one last step that will save you from having to reset your save file, and that is to go and get the tradable Horsey, or Seedrides probably, no Horsey, in Pacific Town. Now I'm going to show you where you can find this Horsey. So this Horsey will work exactly like dots. You need a Bagon to trade it. Oh, I walked too far. It's in this little house right here, and then you just go up to this guy over here. And yeah, so you trade that, and make sure to clone it immediately after, so that you have a spare that so you always can come back to that if everything goes wrong. Alright, so let's talk about the actual corruption part, because there are some things that people have been wondering here as well. Now, when you have EV trained your dots and you have cloned it, which you should do, you have cloned it and you've cloned your, what is it, the Plusle. So make sure that you remove everything except Growl on Plusle, and you can give, well, no, that's actually all you need. Just do that. Some people say you can have Flash on dots. You could probably do that too, but I don't think it matters too much. And when you've cloned those and put them in the exact position that I show on the setup video, in the correct box, you will now come down to this grass and save the game. But you need one Pokemon with Fly, you need the Shuppet. You actually don't need the Shuppet. It's actually just because it's easy to get 1 HP. That's the whole goal of that. And you have to have given it HP ups, right? And the HP up gives you 10 HP EVs, which is why when using the Pomeg Berry later, the Pomeg Berry reduces your HP EVs by 10, and this allows you, or basically because of the glitch, or the unintended thing that they didn't fix in the game, which is that the current HP, or the max HP drops, right, by 1 along with your current HP, so that your current HP will go to 0, and that's going to cause it to become this glitch Pokemon. But if you haven't given Shuppet EVs with the vitamin HP up, then it's not gonna work. Sometimes you may also see like a question mark 35 or something instead of the 0, instead of it fainting or something like that. The fix then is to give it a potion, and it should faint. Alright, so when you have gotten your Dots Egg, the correct one, it should look like this, by the way. It has a nest ball, as you can see down here. This is the nest ball. It can spawn in a Premier Ball, but that is wrong and it won't work. So you need to reset until you get this. It's RNG, so if you don't get it on the first try, don't worry. But yeah, you probably will go for a few tries before you get it. You don't have to worry too much about the timing of it. Like, you don't have to change the timing. Just do the same timing over and over until it works. However, I did say, I think I said like 4 seconds to hold up the button. Any of your Pokemon and close it. Now hold up to scroll for 5 seconds. Return to the battle and press run. You have to have sound on to hear it, and you should do that because that will clear. Like if you don't hear any scrolling, and then you try to go into your PC later to check and there are no bad eggs, it just means that you didn't do that step correctly. Alright, but when you get this bad egg, you no longer need this shop it and all of the other things in your party. You can just put them away and you'll never use them ever again when using ace codes, okay? So when you're ready to start with your ace codes, just put your Pokemon wherever you want them, okay? It doesn't matter anymore. As long as you have this egg, make sure to clone it though, because once you've hatched it, once you've hatched this egg, it's gonna be gone forever. So yeah, which is why I recommend getting the stabilizer, by the way, because you can use it unlimited times and you don't have to hatch anything. One important thing though, if you are hatching this this egg, and this is extremely important, when you're trying to hatch any ace codes, make sure to never ever save the game if you're not in front of the PC when you have this egg in your party, because if I were to save the game here and I wasn't there right next to the PC, let's say the egg now hatches, and if the code is wrong, your game will crash, and then when you reset the game, you will come right back to where you were, and you can't reach the PC in time because the egg will hatch again, and this is going to soft lock your game and you would have to restart the entire save file. So that's pretty much the most dangerous thing you can do. Always make sure to stay next to the PC while executing or hatching these dots eggs, because the normal thing is you put in the code, you save the game, and then you like hatch the egg. You don't actually have to be in the Pokemon Center like I do in the videos. You can just go outside on a bike to make it faster, but you need to, you know, have some clue about when it's going to hatch, so that you actually get back to the PC in time before it hatches. Then you save the game, and then you continue trying to hatch it. If you've gone through my troubleshooting document here, and you still have problems with Ace, and you're not sure what's wrong, you can always come into my Discord channel and ask. You can go into the Pokemon help channel and ask there, but I would advise you to use this formula for when asking for help, because it's gonna save you time and it's gonna save us, me and everyone else time when we're trying to help you out. So the way you're gonna formulate yourself is first code name, then the game, like Emerald, device, if you're playing on Emerald, on DS or GBA, or emulator for 3DS. You know, all these things are important because, you know, some of them might not work. Then the result of the execution, like what happened when you hatched the egg, or when you viewed your stable ace's summary, like what happened. Tell us exactly, very detailed, what happened, especially if there's something that's like out of the ordinary. And then you tell us what you used to execute. Was it a dots egg or stable ace? And if this was your first code or not. So here's an example. Hi, I'm attempting to execute the code, insert name, on Emerald with my DS Lite. But when I execute it using my dots egg, the screen goes black while the music still plays. This is my first code after making the dots egg. By stating it like that, or formulating it like that, you will help us tremendously to just know exactly what to try next. Most likely we'll tell you, paste some pictures of your box names so that we can double check that your codes are typed in correctly. And so feel free to do that as well. And also for all my Ace code videos, I have put, I usually update in the pinned comments. I usually make updates if there's something I forgot to mention, or there's a new discovery for, you know, maybe it's an old code. So make sure to look at the pinned comment for any additional information. One last thing I wanted to show you is that there's a lot of you who think that, like, if we go to Mobile City, where a lot of the codes are being executed, especially for the mystery tickets, a lot of you have been wondering about this guy this guy over here, and it's actually his hair color, right? It actually has a different hair color depending on your trainer ID, actually. So don't worry about if he doesn't have the same hair color, it doesn't matter. One last thing, when you're executing codes using or just hatching eggs, and you see this question mark, it may have different colors, but don't worry about that either, because it's also RNG. It can have a random amount of colors or anything like that, but if it doesn't look like a question mark, if it hatches into a Pokemon, or it hatches into some weird other glitch stuff, then most likely your EVs were wrong. Alright, so I think I've gone through pretty much everything. On this form you can also find some frequently asked questions, so make sure to check that out. And if it doesn't help you, come to my Discord, or come there anyway and hang out. So to recap at the end here, next time you run into a problem with Ace, try using the Ace Troubleshooter first. It's fast, anonymous, and it will guide you to the right fix for your setup. And if you still need help, hop into the Discord server and ask in the Pokemon help channel, preferably with the right formula for us to help you faster. And that's it, honestly. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.